A very warm good evening to one and all. First of all, we the history enthusiasts wish all our audience a very happy World Heritage Day. So, today on World Heritage Day, co founder of the history enthusiasts, Ms Manali Momaya, is going to do her second book review in our the history enthusiasts. And her book title is Buddha or Karl Marx by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. I warmly welcome Ms. Manali Momaya to do this book review. I'm
Thank you.
glad that she's doing a book review on such a great book, which has got too many authentications by great scholars, academicians, and I'm glad that we are today able to hear this book review. And I also welcome all the audience who continuously supported us and are supporting us. Thank you so much and keep supporting us. Now I request Miss Manali Momaya to start her book review.
Thank you very much, Nidhi, for the warm welcome. Very good evening to all the history enthusiasts. Firstly, I want to wish you all a belated but meaningful and happy Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Jayanti. The contributions of Dr. Ambedkar have been and will continue to be unparalleled in the shaping of modern Indian society, economy, politics, and international image. And his reforms and ideas, they go far beyond the upliftment of oppressed and suppressed. They benefit majority of India's population, in fact. And as both the founder and the co-founder of this page, we both are women. We are forever indebted to him for fighting for the rights of Indian women. He risked being called an anti-national for prioritizing social justice and democracy before attaining political independence in order to ensure that the rights of the downtrodden will be safeguarded after India became free. His methods of historical research were exemplary, even though for the longest time mainstream historians did not accept him as a historian. His greatest contribution to our nation is undoubtedly the Indian Constitution, which he drafted as the chairman of the drafting committee. He assimilated the hopes and aspirations of millions of Indians, uh, and all the while he upholding the spirit of India's unity in diversity. Today, more than ever, his views on social justice, democracy, equality, and brotherhood are very relevant in the light of increasing intolerance and distress. So, once again, we pay our respects to Bharat Ratna Baba Saheb Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. I also wish you all a very happy World Heritage Day. Without our past, we are nameless. Our heritage is our identity. So, as students of history and as history enthusiasts, uh, it is our responsibility. The responsibility increases that we safeguard and protect our heritage, we create awareness about it. So, keeping that in mind, we have organized an online lecture on the 20th, that is day after tomorrow, at 7 p.m. The details and the link of that will be shared tomorrow or day after tomorrow. So, yes, before going to the book review, I want to introduce myself. My name is Manali Momaya, and I'm from Hubli, Karnataka. I'm currently a research scholar at the Department of History and Archaeology, Karnataka University, Dharwad. I completed my Master of Arts in History and Archaeology from the same department in 2019, along with clearing my KSET in History and UGC NET in History the same year. I cleared my KSET in Archaeology the following year and also completed my PG Diploma in Epigraphy. And the next year, I also completed my PG Diploma in Jainology. Currently, I'm pursuing a PG Diploma in Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Studies. The topic of my PhD is Idealistic and Materialistic Principles in Jain and Buddhist Philosophies, a Historical Analysis. I'm thankful to my guide, Dr. Jagdish Kyodanavar, and my mentor, Professor Shiladhar Mughli sir, for constantly supporting and encouraging me in my academic pursuits. In May 2020, I and my friend Ms Nidhi Katti, we founded this YouTube channel and page, The History Enthusiasts. And so far, we are having a wonderful journey. We have enjoyed it immensely. And our main objective was to delve deeper into history, and we are doing the same exactly. Next month, that is in May, we will be celebrating the second anniversary of our channel and page. So we have organized something for that also, and definitely you will all be a part of that. We are sure about that. So now let's begin with the book review. Before going to the book itself, I want to say a few words about Buddha and the Buddhist philosophy. So Buddha said, "You lose only what you cling to." Now that might sound as a very idealistic proverb, but when we go through the Buddhist philosophy, there are a lot of very practical and very relevant uh, points that we have, a great scope to put in our life, to everyday follow. And this particular sentence also stands testimony to that. For a long time in the study of world history and philosophy, Gautam Buddha was viewed as nothing more than a founder of an ancient religion and a proponent of ahimsa, that is non-violence. But in recent times, studies exploring the Buddha's teachings and ideas have conclusively proved that he was much more than a religious prophet. Moreover, Buddhism is a way of life rather than a religion. And uh, just a second. Yes, it is a way of life. It is not merely a religion or a theism or asceticism or some other set of principles and practices. In fact, the Buddha is one of the world's greatest teachers whose thoughts are valuable not only to the believers of his religion but also to the followers of other thoughts, so other faiths and atheists also. His philosophy of non-violence is not based on a vague or intangible foundations like soul or karma, but on a solid and practical premise of reality and worldliness. When one studies the original discourse of the Buddha, which has been compiled in the Tripitakas, which are written in Pali, they are also translated into several modern languages. We come across numerous dialogues between Buddha and other eminent and popular personalities of his times that throw light on his philosophical and spiritual leanings. If we do not have enough contextual knowledge or time to, go through the entire Pali discourse of Buddha or go through the Tripitakas in their entirety, but we still want to understand the basic principles of Buddha's teachings, we can rely on Dr. Ambedkar's works, especially Buddha or Karl Marx. If we want to view the Buddha's principles in a socialistic or materialistic viewpoint, this particular work of Dr. Ambedkar is the most convenient and rewarding source. The world has seen the emergence of several philosophies and schools of thoughts over the course of its long and eventful history. One of the strongest and most influential of these schools of thoughts is socialism. It changed the course of history of many countries in the modern times. However, the idea that socialism emerged in the modern times, and Karl Marx was the father of socialism. Well, he is considered the father of modern socialism. There's no doubt about that. But to say that socialism evolved all of a sudden in the modern period is very erroneous. A careful and comprehensive study of ancient philosophies all over the world will bring to light the socialistic and materialistic elements that were found in some of these philosophies. Of course, as Professor Ashok Shettar sir, my teacher, he points out every time that giving the term socialism to any of the ancient philosophies would be an anachronism because the word was not in use at that time, and socialism as we know today was not evolved during those days. But we can say that there were many socialistic elements or tendencies in those philosophies. And of all ancient philosophies in India, the best and most practical model of socialism, we are calling it a model of socialism for convenience of study, It was propounded, or it was perfected by Buddha, and communism nurtured to its zenith by Marx. There is a huge difference between those two, but however, there are many points where we can have a comparison. So, Dr. Ambedkar's Buddha or Karl Marx helps us to compare these two uh, and see objectively which of the two is most suitable for a diverse, peace-seeking, and democratic global community. Uh, before directly going to the contents of the Buddha or Karl Marx, let us understand the background of the book. Buddha or Karl Marx is originally a speech delivered by Dr. Ambedkar in the fourth conference of World Fellowship of Buddhists held in Kathmandu, Nepal in 1956. It was first published in text format in Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar Writings and Speeches, Volume 3. So it is from page number 441 to 460. It is quite a small work. We can, it's very readable, very interesting, and once you sit down to read, you want to finish it at one go. So definitely, I recommend everyone to read that work. So it was published by the government of Maharashtra in 1987. The editorial note in this volume mentions that among Dr. Ambedkar's belongings, three different manuscripts of Buddha or Karl Marx were found, which had corrections in his own handwriting. The publication of this essay in the third volume of Dr. Ambedkar Writings and Speeches was done after careful comparison and consolidation of the matter which was contained within these three manuscripts. Dr. Ambedkar has articulated this essay with a clear picture in his mind, knowing full well that it might seem odd to some people to compare Buddha and Karl Marx, who were two completely different individuals that lived in two absolutely remote areas and almost 2000 years apart from each other, and came from two entirely different socio-political backgrounds. Even so, Dr. Ambedkar contends that a comparison between the two historical figures is attractive and instructive, and that the Marxists have a lot to learn from Buddha. This article presents, so this essay, it presents a comparison between the thoughts and ideas of both Karl Marx and Buddha, and he also upheld the uh, relevance and practicality of Buddha's teachings. Whether Dr. Ambedkar is a historian or not has been a matter of debate on many occasions. In fact, many professional historians of India have certain reservations or prejudices against him when it comes to accepting him as an historian. However, works like Buddha or Karl Marx stand testimony to the fact that, in fact, Dr. Ambedkar is a very objective and thorough historian. This comparative essay on Buddha and Marx it is not based on assumptions or generalizations, but it is based on objective study and analysis of original Buddhist scriptures. Dialogues have been directly taken from the Tripitakas. They have been provided in the essay itself for the reader as an evidence to the validity of the comparisons made by the author. These dialogues between Buddha and his contemporaries that have been recorded and compiled in the Tripitakas can be counted among the oldest and most reliable literary sources for the study of Buddhism. If we may go through the essay once, we can be assured that it is a work of great diligence and expertise, and it is a result of vast reading and experience. One might expect such objective temperament and thoroughness only from a historian. So that's why it would not be wrong to be to call Dr. Ambedkar as a historian. This this essay, it not only highlights the importance of the comparison between Buddha and Karl Marx, but also the relevance of it shows the relevance of Dr. Ambedkar's writings as a historical work and on contemporary polity and society. The work Buddha or Karl Marx is a historiographical work of Buddhism, as the author uses original Buddhist sources to build this work. The dialogue between Buddha and the Brahmin Potthapada for example, is taken from the Potthapada Sutra or Sutta from the Digha Nikaya, which is part of the Sutta Pitaka. Similarly, the dialogue between King Pasenadi of Kosala and Buddha, it comes from the Dhamma Chettiya Sutta of the Majjhima Nikaya, another one of the Nikayas of Sutta Pitaka. The dialogue between Ananda, the disciple of Buddha, and the latter, it is also taken from the Digha Nikaya. The laws applicable to the Bhikkhu Sangha, which have been mentioned in the Buddha or Karl Marx, they have been enumerated as they have been found in the Theravada Vinaya Pitaka. Several other dialogues and examples have thus been included from the original Buddhist sources that have been translated to English by Pali scholars like Rhys Davis and others. It is evident from the style of writing that historical method of study has been applied for this work. The language used in the essay is historically appropriate and not unnecessarily ornamented or exaggerated in any way. The comparison between Buddha and Karl Marx is not a whimsical idea of the author, but a well justified and solid concept for which tangible evidence has been provided. The many similarities yet fundamental differences between Buddha's thoughts and those of Marx have been very plainly and objectively presented. Dr. Ambedkar has balanced the entire hypothesis that Buddha's middle path is far more suitable to the world scenario than the Marxist dictatorship of the proletariat on very intricately built arguments. There is no bias towards one or against another one. Considering all the above mentioned qualities, there is no doubt that Buddha or Karl Marx is a work of history as well as historiography. As already established, Buddha or Karl Marx is indeed a valuable work of Buddhist history that examines the materialistic principles of Buddhism in comparison with Marxism, one of the most prominent schools of materialistic philosophy in modern times. If we study the history of materialism, it becomes clear that the term materialism as well as its philosophical concept is relatively modern, and therefore our classification of ancient philosophical elements as materialistic or idealistic or hedonistic or any other similar modern concepts, uh, they would is involuntarily overshadowed by our understanding of these concepts as they are perceived in modern times. This default connection made by our brain is worth exploring and delving deeper, as it helps us to visualize the ancient society, economy, polity, and whatnot in a much clearer, albeit limited panorama. Buddha or Karl Marx creates a similar panoramic picture of the Buddhist Sangha and society of ancient India by giving us a comparative study between Buddha and Karl Marx with regards to the core philosophies. Dr. Ambedkar contends that Marx was not the first person to propound socialism in modern times. It had been proposed and preached by several other modern philosophers before Marx, such as Charles Fourier, Louis Blanqui, Charles Hall, William Thomson, James Mill, John Stuart Mill, and others. So, the main difference between Marx and his predecessors The main difference between Marx and his predecessors is that while they keep their socialistic ideas limited to philosophy, Marx was more interested in proving that socialism was scientific. This is the reason why Marx is hailed as a father of modern socialism or communism. If we examine the ancient philosophies of India closely, especially the pre-Buddhist era, we come across scattered materialistic thoughts and elements in various heterodox and some orthodox philosophies that rejected the existence of a supernatural being and rose above the fruitless debates of soul and God. However, none of the thinkers before Buddha were able to arrange these ideas coherently and into a scientific system that worked in the direction of freeing people from despair and distress of this world, rather than guaranteeing them a good life or a great prosperity in the next birth. The ideas of Buddha, they were more directed towards freeing people from the distress of this world, from this life. Dr. Ambedkar has enumerated in his essay several tenets of Buddha as he has understood them from his reading of the Tripitakas that have striking similarities to the concepts put forth by modern communists. Some of them are, he has taken this directly from the Tripitakas. religion is necessary for free society. This is what Buddha said. So religion here is a direct translation from the word dhamma. It usually means religion, but there is not a, we do not have a proper word for the translation of dhamma in English. Uh, we say religion, but I don't think that is the most appropriate word. Religion must relate to facts of life and not to theories and speculations about God, soul, heaven, or earth. This is another point raised by Buddha. He says that it is wrong to make God the center of religion. It is wrong to make salvation of the soul as the center of religion. So Buddha did not indulge in debates on soul. He said it is not necessary. Man and morality must be the center of religion. If not, religion is a cruel superstition. So if we base religion on some set of rules or vague principles like soul or salvation, it is not a religion at all. It is not enough for morality to be the ideal of life. Since there is no God, it must become the law of life. So morality is not just an ideal, something that has to be achieved at one's leisure. It should be the way of life. The function of religion is to reconstruct the world and make it happy, and not to explain its origin or end. When the world started or when it is going to end is not the concern for Buddha. Uh, the unhappiness of the world is due to conflict of interest, and the only way to solve it is following the Ashtanga Marga, the Noble Eightfold Path. So, the unhappiness which is prevalent in the world, it does not come from one's, greed. Sorry, it comes from one's greed or desire, practical. That is when conflicts begin, conflicts of interest, because if one person has greed, the next person will also have greed, and when there is conflict of interest between these two, then there will be unrest in the world, which leads to sorrow. uh, the private ownership of property brings power to one class and sorrow to another. Buddha believed that there should not be uh, private ownership of property, that the property should be owned by all people of the society. It should be equitable. All human beings are equal. This is directly a quote from Buddha. Worth and not birth is the measure of man. So, the caste in which a person is born does not measure his worth. It is his actions that bring worth to his life. And all these, we see that modern communists are somewhat agreed on the above points, even though they do not believe in any religion. When Buddha says that religion is necessary for a free society, we must understand the word religion is used here as a general translation of the word dhamma. It does not have a proper corresponding word in English, but dhamma, we can take it as it makes uh, the meaning of dhamma could just be moral actions, or it is a way of life. So there is no word that can make complete justice to its meaning. Even the Marxists contend that there should be a government in the society, specifically the dictatorship of the proletariat. Another ideal of the Marxists is that the purpose of philosophy is to reconstruct the world and not to explain the origin of the universe. So the same thing was quoted from the Tripitakas. This kind of utilitarian value has been attached to philosophy by Buddha also, and that too several centuries before Marx or any other modern materialists. In his dialogue with the Brahmin named Pottapada, Buddha contends that he has never expressed his opinion on the finite or infinite nature of the world, on the existence of the soul or life after death, because in his omniscient perception, these issues did not merit any profit, nor were they concerned with Dhamma, purification from lust, tranquilization of heart, real knowledge, or nirvana. So, uh, in the words of Buddha himself, there was no meaning in arguing or debating the existence of a soul or whether the world is finite or infinite, whether it has an end or a beginning. There was no meaning nor any utilitarian value to such debates, and therefore he abstained from uh, involving or indulging into such debates, which were very common during his times. Buddha did not give lengthy and complicated discourses on the existence or non existence of soul. Realism, rebirth, and afterlife, etc., that form the core of other contemporary philosophies such as Jainism or Vedantic philosophies. He merely catered to the world what was of utmost utilitarian value out of his vast ocean of enlightenment. This kind of utilitarianism is another materialistic feature of Buddha's thoughts. Dr. Ambedkar further draws out another similarity between Buddhism and modern materialism, the acknowledgement of class conflict. So, Gail Omvet writes in her in Introduction to Buddhism in India, Challenging Brahmanism and Caste. She writes that in Ambedkar's interpretation of Buddhist history, Siddhartha's search for truth begins with the Marxist problem of social exploitation and class struggle. Further, she also contends that the new interpolations of Dr. Ambedkar to Buddhist philosophy are aimed at providing what might be called Buddhist answer to the Marxist question, that is, bloodless, peaceful, and democratic revolution to establish a classless and casteless society. The entire philosophy of Marx is based on the undeniable fact that there are two classes in the society, that is the rich and the poor, and that there is conflict of interest between these two classes, which is due to the inequitable distribution of resources and private ownership of property by one class. The first step in solving any problem lies in identifying the problem. So, both Buddha and Marx, or all the modern materialistic philosophers, they identified this class conflict. And Buddha was a strong proponent of the theory of causation or karma, but his theory did not involve soul or sin. It is a practical concept. So, in Jainism and Hinduism, when we talk about karma, it is basically good or bad deeds, and it is based on some idealistic platforms. But Buddha's theory of karma, or sin, uh, it has discernible manifestations in our day to day life. Instead of saying that greed in this life will lead to a low birth in the next life, um, like most other moral idealist philosophies, he objectively explained that one community's greed will lead to the sufferings and sorrow for another community in this world itself. It will lead to for facilitation of exploitation of one community by another because of greed. This is more or less how modern communists look at class conflict and causation, as they do, as they also do not believe in God. Buddha opined that private ownership was one of the causes of economic disparity and suffering in the world. He did not negate the role of economy or wealth in the well being of individuals. So, unlike an idealistic philosophy where wealth was not considered as a deciding factor of the course of history, Buddha contended that in fact wealth and economic changes decided the course of history. However, Buddha discouraged private ownership of property with exception of a few items. The rules regarding ownership are especially strict for the bhikkhus, who were completely forbidden to own anything other than a prescribed list of 8 items, 8 articles, that included 3 robes, a girdle for the loins, an alms bowl, a razor, a needle, and a water strainer. So that's all. They cannot own anything more than that, according to Buddha. In the same way, modern communists are strictly opposed to a private ownership of land, industries, and all other instruments of production. So, here again, we see the similarity between the thoughts of Buddha and modern communists or modern materialists. Having discussed the similarities between the ancient Buddhist thoughts and the modern Marxist philosophy, one might think as to why Dr. Ambedkar contends that the Marxists have a lot to learn from Buddha. So, when there are so many similarities, what is there to learn? The answer lies in the means. Whereas the aims of both the philosophies are same. So, In this context, the aims are to bring peace and end class conflict by adopting communist principles. The means propagated for doing so they are drastically different. While the Marxists contend that dictatorship of the proletariat is inevitable and irresistible, and that violence is the only means for enforcing the dictatorship, Buddha preaches a utilitarian form of ahimsa. While the Marxist arguments are contradictory in this regard and have disproved themselves, Buddha's ahimsa has been a suitable path for transformation of society and for establishment of peace without unnecessary violence. We must bear in mind that, unlike Mahavira, Buddha did not preach extreme or absolute nonviolence, where one is supposed to stay still and be nonviolent even in the face of injustice. Injustice to self. Even Mahavira did not preach to stay uh, uh, quiet in the face of injustice to somebody else, but when injustice or pain is inflicted upon oneself, he was supposed to stay calm and tolerate it without any kind of retaliation. But Buddha's ahimsa was not like that. It was very utilitarian, very practical. And we can see that in his dialogue with Simha Senapati, the commander in chief of Vaishali. Uh, Buddha proposed that the responsibility of violence falls on the shoulders of the one who has started it and not the one who reacts to it. So if somebody attacks me and I retaliate, the responsibility of the violence lies on the person who attacked me and not on me for retaliating. Violence is acceptable when used for self defense or preserving justice, according to Buddha. However, it must be used as a last resort and not as the only resort. The modern communists, however, treat violence as an absolute principle, which would have been very strictly rejected by Buddha or if he were to be alive today. The Buddha advocates a middle path for the establishment of peace in society. He does not adhere to dictatorial ideals at all, as he was a republican through and through. He preaches the Panchashila and the Noble Eightfold Path that stress on the right to livelihood, or stress on right livelihood. He does not believe in confiscating land from the rich and giving it to the poor, uh, but in creation of equal opportunities for all. So he said everybody should be able to own land equally. Um does not mean you have to take away the land from the rich and distribute it to the poor. He contends that nirvana can be attained by treading the Ashtanga Marga, and this nirvana is not afterlife, but peace and material prosperity in this life itself. So, uh, instead of the idea that land has to be snatched from the rich and given to the poor, Buddha believed that if the rich became noble enough, if they followed the Ashtanga Marga, they would want to give up the private ownership of land in view of the greater good of the society. Further down the essay, Dr. Ambedkar has compared the means propagated by both Buddha and Karl Marx and has shown that in the long run, Buddha's means are more efficacious and suitable for the world than those to live in peace. The Marxist idea that peace can be attained by committing to violence is like trying to build something while ruining its basic foundation at the same time. You are trying to bring peace by causing unrest. Um, it is contradictory in itself. Coming to the conclusion, Buddha's materialism is not merely a philosophy that treats men as animals that need fattening, but as individuals who are entitled to both material and spiritual well being. Despite being much more ancient form of materialism, it is evident from Dr. Ambedkar's essay that it was much more advanced and scientific than any other form of modern materialism. It gives answers to many questions that were not even existent in Buddha's own times and have arisen in the modern period, which communism fails to address efficiently. So, in the current scenario of the world, where there is already so much of violence and so much of intolerance, people dying every day because of differences in ideologies, uh, violence cannot be the answer to the question of peace. Trying to bring peace through violence, I don't think I think many of us will not agree that it is a good idea. But Buddha's Ashtanga Marga will lead to the change of heart. It is very relevant because if people understand what Buddha has really told, and if they try to uh, bring take it up as a principle of their own lives, there will be no need for such a revolution, such a bloody revolution, or uh, such a uh, war between two classes to bring peace. So, in the long run, only Buddha's materialism is a means to establish a society where liberty, equality, and fraternity can all go hand in hand. Because in Marxism, there can either be equality or liberty, and definitely no fraternity. Because when there are two classes and when there is no change of heart, there will be no fraternity. Dr. Ambedkar ends the essay by contending that communism can give one but not all, and he is absolutely right in this contention, as it has been proven by many historical experiments. Materialism of Buddha, on the other hand, is adaptable to any society as it does not destroy the very thing that it is trying to grow, which is peace. It is the simplest, most scientific form of materialism in the history of philosophy. So, of course, the modern communism, materialism, which was uh, given by Karl Marx, it was a very it was a deciding factor for the change of course of history in many countries, and it has a great influence in the modern world also. But there are many contradictions in the theory. There are many things which have been neglected. There are many uh, elements of society that have not been taken into account in this philosophy. So Buddha's materialism, on the other hand, it is very practical, and since it is based on the principles of peace, and since it can uphold all three, that is liberty, equality, and fraternity, in the long run, Buddha's Ashtanga Marga, the middle path, the Panchashila, are the most effective means of bringing socialism in the society without causing any kind of violence and war. So that was all about Buddha or Karl Marx from me. If there are any questions or any suggestions, I welcome them.
That was really an awesome book review, Manali. It was really very nice, and I felt that I was reading the essay. So that much in depth, you have explained everything. It was really very informative.
Yes, I would recommend everybody, in fact, to go and read this book because it is quite small. It is very brief, but it throws so much light on. You feel as if you are actually reading the Tripitakas when you read his work. There are dialogues directly taken from the Tripitakas, and you get an insight not only on the materialistic aspects of Buddha and his philosophy, but also on the society that was existent during those times. So, what kind of uh, elements were taken up for debate during those times? What other philosophies were trying to say, and how Buddha was different from other heterodox philosophies of his time, such as Jainism, and there is Charvaka's philosophy, and then there is Ajivaka's. So, from all those philosophies, how Buddha was different, that can also be seen through this book. So, definitely recommend anyone who is interested to read it. It is very brief, and you can finish it in one go. If you sit down for an hour or 1.5 hours, you can just finish reading it, and you will be so much more enlightened after that.
Yes, surely I'll also read it.
Yes. So
So
I don't
I,
think there are any.
yeah. There is one comment from Raju Kallat. Really, program is going on very nicely and very meaningful. He has commented.
Yes, yes. Thank you. There were not many viewers today, but I think later on the video might get views. So if
Yes,
anybody has any questions even then, please put it in the comment section and we will get back to those. Uh, Also, yes, we have this announcement to make. Nidhi, please share the brochures of the.
yes, yes. Yeah, I have shared it.
Just a minute.
Yes.
It's not visible, dear. Yeah, it's now visible.
Okay. Yes, yes.
Yes. So we are going to publish an edited book, a multidisciplinary bilingual edited work titled Sanskriti, uh, which is it is an endeavor to bring articles written on women and the general history of women, their achievements, the challenges faced by modern women, and a lot of encompassing, related ideas to bring them together and add to the body of literature available on women. So there are the sub themes. There are, I think, 20 sub themes. Very interesting and in very intriguing sub themes they are. So if anyone is interested to contribute an article to the book, uh, we are very any details, any additional information, you can contact me or Nidhi. We will share. We have already shared the brochure on our Facebook page and our Instagram, so you can go there. There is our email ID and the phone numbers of both of us, and also of the other coordinators. So you can go through that, go through the brochure, see if you are interested to present, to give an article on any of the sub themes, and it will be a great addition to the literature which is there on women. So, generally, throughout history, women have been sidelined. The history of women has not made an impact on the mainstream history. It is not much, significant. And maybe the reason for that is the work of women, the contribution of women is always considered inferior, because the kind of work that women were assigned, the gender stereotypical roles of women that were assigned to them throughout history, they were considered of lesser significance. And only women who took up arms, or they went for I think that must be changed. Women's history should be brought to the mainstream, and this is our small effort in that direction. You want to add anything else?
Yes, actually, when we study the history textbooks in schools or maybe in PUC or colleges, very less information or women history is not there in those textbooks. Only we study some of the names like Kitturali Chandama, it may be, or Jhansi Rani Lakshmi Bai. In medieval, also we have only two names. Those are Razia Sultan and Noor Jahan. That too, a small paragraph will be there, whereas we will be having 2 3 pages about kings
One thing.
particularly. Yeah, so uh, it doesn't mean that women have not contributed. There were so many great women who were not part of war field, but have contributed in other ways.
Of
uh,
course.
it may be Savitribai Phule, it may be Pandit Ramabai, it may be Ramabai Ranade, it may be Annie Besant. Many of our kids, they don't know who Annie Besant is, and they will ask questions why we should study Annie Besant, what she has done to India, because she was a foreigner. So these all things are there, and particularly we don't have any literature about common women, how their situation was in society in our history books. So
Exactly.
as Uma Chakravarti says, women's life should be part of history rather than kings or brahmins, because
Definitely.
those, yeah. And as my guide says, Ramesh Kamble sir, Dr. Ramesh Kamble sir, if women is not part of society, then society will not exist.
Of course.
She is the whole and soul of society. Women is there because of her, society is there. So we have to study her history. So it's a small effort done by history enthusiasts. I hope everyone contributes to it, and I hope it will be a successful effort.
Yes,
So
definitely. We are collaborating with the Department of Social Work, uh, Rani Chennamma University's PG Halakatti PG Center, Vijaypura, and along with them we are doing this. The work will be published by Akshara Foundation Dharwad. So the details of the publisher, the details of the editors, everything is provided in the brochure. The blind review method will be used for selection of articles. So all the details are there in the brochure. Apart from that, if you need any other assistance, we are always happy to help. So contact us anytime. And of course, uh, as Nidhi also said, women have always been half of the population, and therefore uh, we also need, we also deserve half of the representation in every field. And so it applies to history also. Why should women be neglected when we have half of the existence? So that's why definitely looking forward to your contribution. Also, if anybody, any other research scholars who are watching us, if you are interested in presenting a book review on our platform, you are warmly welcome. We like to keep doing things on our page. Due to the opening of all colleges and schools, we have been less active, because Nidhi and me, both of us are research scholars, and we are working on our PhDs also. But we try to keep going. And if anyone is interested to present book reviews, uh, we are very happy to host you here. I think with that we have come to the end of this session.
yes. So I'll take this responsibility to thank everyone. First of all, I thank Ms Manali Momaya, founder and host of the History Enthusiast. It was really a wonderful book review. I felt as if as I was reading the essay. So it was really very knowledgeable, and thank you so much for
Thank
presenting
you.
this essay as a book review in the History Enthusiast. And I also thank all the audience who have watched this book review. Please keep supporting us. Without your support, our page cannot be successful. Please continue your support, and thank you so much.
And thank you to Nidhi for being such a wonderful host today, and for always bringing new ideas to the page. So thank you very much.
My
Let's end.
pleasure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bye everyone. Have a nice day.